super energy in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers, so I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. No!
Hope I'm not too late.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Beans Tails.
Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Step 1, light taunting. Step 2, I have no idea. That wasn't too bad.
He's much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
You're a colorful bunch.
We don't want to fight you.
Actually, Sonic, I would like to fight.
No, no! My turn. And we just talked about yours!
Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail, and finally, after what feels like a long time, I'm finally doing my second franchise discussion video. Now, the first franchise discussion video I did was a couple of months ago, and in that video I discussed the Terrifier franchise, where I looked over the background of Terrifier, how it came to be, and discussed Terrifiers 1, 2, and 3, and gave my thoughts and opinions on them. But in this video, I'm going to be discussing the Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise, so Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and recently that came out in December, Sonic 3. But also, I will briefly talk about the Knuckles TV spin-off, because that is still part of the Sonic universe, and it'll be a bit of fun just to give you my opinion on it. Now, we all know how this franchise started. It did start on a little bit of a down, and we were very concerned about it when we got the original Sonic design back on the 30th of April 2019, when the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer dropped, and the world went insane for Ugly Sonic, which recently did appear then later, a couple of years later, in a Chip and Dale movie where they basically took the mick out of the design. But the internet and the fandom all came together to get Sonic redesigned to the design that we know and that we love in these movies. So I'm going to waste no more time, and I'm going to jump straight into the first movie, which will be Sonic the Hedgehog, which originally was coming out in 2019, but eventually came out in 2020. Hey, so I think we should just start where it all started off, really, back in 2019, or shall I say 2020, because originally Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was due to come out, I think, on the 8th of November 2019. But due to, fan demand and the negative press that the ugly Sonic design did end up getting, they delayed the film, and eventually it came out the following year for a nice Valentine's Day treat on February 14th, 2020. And we all know how 2020 turned out. But Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was welcomed with fairly open arms. The film time was roughly about an hour and 40 minutes, which I think really helped this movie, and it was very fast-paced, no pun intended there for the Sonic fans. I never felt bored from start to finish. I felt fully engaged. But what I do find interesting about the Sonic franchise, especially now after we've been gifted with so many new characters and so many Easter eggs, which I'll discuss in the next couple of movies and TV show, is that now when you look back at Sonic 1, it does feel very stripped back and very plain. Like, if we talk about the cast of the movie, the only real, core major Sonic characters that people would immediately recognise, even people who just watch Sonic passively, would be Ben Schwartz, who plays the core titular character of Sonic the Hedgehog, who does a fantastic job, might I add. Ben Schwartz has really, really grown on me. I was unsure in the first movie, but in Sonic 2, his brief cameo in Knuckles TV show, and also in Sonic 3, I've really grown to Ben Schwartz, and I think he's fantastic. And then, obviously, the main man himself, Jim Carrey, as Dr. Ivo Robotnik, or Dr. Eggman, as other people might know him, who also does a fantastic job. And when going back to rewatch Sonic 1, it's really weird to see how he looked when he first came onto the screen, because now he is the true Eggman character that we know, wearing the iconic outfit with the famous moustache, with the goggles, with the bald head. whereas before he looked nothing like that. So it is really interesting to see the progression in his madness in terms of trying to stop Sonic, defeat Sonic, gain power and control. It is really, really good. Whereas in this one, he does seem a little bit more switched on. Whereas by Sonic 3, he's practically insane at that point. But the basic premise, and they wanted to treat Sonic as if he's an alien from another world. So the basic premise, you get to see Sonic at the start of the movie as a young baby who's being looked after by this race of owls, and his sort of mother character known as Longclaw, who sends him off to Earth to hide after a tribe of echidnas are tracking them down, and warns that people might want to use Sonic for his power. He spends a lot of time on Earth. He goes to this place called Green Hills, which he now calls his home. He's living in a tree. But he's very, very lonely. There's the scene, obviously the iconic scene where he's playing baseball by himself, but then his emotions get carried away and he then causes a massive power outage, which attracts the government, who want to find out what caused it. So they bring in Dr. Eggman in order to try and solve it, and then Sonic and Eggman end up clashing, and then, you know, their rivalry begins. But in the meantime, obviously, you've got Sonic, who meets the Wachowski family. So you've got Tom and Maddie, played by James Marsden, and Tika Sumpter, who do fantastic jobs as well. They're really great characters. The human characters in this are done really, really well. And I love the character of Wade Whipple. It's really interesting in the Knuckles series that they paired Knuckles and Wade together, because they do bounce off each other really, really well. But yeah, I do like Sonic 1. It is really, really good. It becomes a bit of a road trip movie in the end. But all these Sonic movies really do a good job at trying to tease you for a future movie by introducing a brand new character and a new plotline that will come into play later on. Like at the end of this movie, we know that Eggman is gone. He's been defeated by Sonic and is sent to another planet through these teleportation rings that Sonic has. But they do tease Eggman's return, where he's actually shaved his head, so he's got the bald head, his moustache is starting to grow, so he's got a little bit of that Eggman look to him, and he's a little bit insane. But also they tease in another post-credit scene of a core character, Miles Tails Prower, who then joins in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And so I remember watching that in the cinema and going wild, because Tails' design was perfect. But because Tails' design was perfect and they did this movie back when Ugly Sonic was a thing, I would like to know what Ugly Tails looked like. Please, can we find out what Ugly Tails looked like? Because that would be really interesting to me. But yeah, overall, looking back on it, I would personally give Sonic the Hedgehog 1 a 7 out of 10. Fun movie from start to finish, definitely worth a watch. But when I now strip it back and think of it compared to Sonic 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, a bit like the Venom series and other franchises, there is a lot less, but there's still enough for us Sonic fans. But that is Sonic 1, because then, 2 years later, in 2022, we were graced with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, where in between there, we were teased about more Sonic characters coming into the franchise, with the casting of Idris Elba as Knuckles the Echidna. So I'm going to waste no more time, and we're going to jump into talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So moving into Sonic the Hedgehog 2, this is the movie whereby all the Easter eggs finally come out properly, and all the fan service stuff to all the Sonic fans properly kicks in, because it's in this movie where we're properly introduced to 2 new core characters, which we knew you had to do if you're doing a Sonic movie. One of them being Miles Tails Prower, Sonic's best friend Tails, who was actually voiced by Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who, if you've played a lot of the Sonic video games, especially since I think about 2010 with Sonic Colors, even some of the Sonic TV shows like Sonic Boom, you'll know that she is actually the voice of Tails, so it was really nice to get her involved with these movies, so I'm very happy about that. It does make me question why they didn't get Roger Craig Smith involved to voice Sonic, but that doesn't matter. And then they also introduced Idris Elba to be the voice of Knuckles the Echidna, and he is fantastic in this movie, and I love Knuckles, and I love the way he portrays Knuckles. He's got that right blend of wise, yet a little bit dumb, because Knuckles can sort of be a bit of both. He can be easily manipulated, and in lots of shows and video games, he is manipulated by Eggman, like in the Sonic Adventure video game, where Eggman tricks him into thinking that Sonic is hiding the Chaos Emeralds and stealing the Master Emerald. If you've watched the Sonic X TV show, that also happens as an episode quite early on in the series called Sonic vs. Knuckles, and that happens again. And they play off that here, where Eggman teams up with Knuckles, because Knuckles helps Eggman get back to Earth, and they team up against Sonic, really. And Tails is there to help Sonic. But in the end, they obviously all do come together, because Knuckles does get betrayed by Eggman and then joins Team Sonic to take on Eggman. But the cast is more or less the same in this movie. You know, you've still got James Marsden as Tom Wachowski. You've still got Tika Sumpter as Maddie Wachowski. You've still got Adam Pally as Wade Whipple. And then you've got Agent Stone is back again, because Agent Stone is a fantastic character within the Sonic franchise, which I really, really like. He's a little bit of like the comic relief who also seems to have a real admiration for Dr. Eggman and Dr. Ivo Robotnik, making him lattes and all this sort of thing. It's really, really funny stuff. But yeah, it's really, really good. You got obviously Jim Carrey came back to play Dr. Ivo Robotnik, stroke Eggman, which Jim Carrey doesn't often come back to do sequels for movies. In fact, I'm fairly certain the only franchises that I've seen Jim Carrey do a sequel to is obviously he did Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. I think it's When Nature Calls. And he also did Dumb and Dumber 2 back in 2014. So it's very rare for Jim Carrey to want to do a sequel, but it's quite nice to see that he did come back to do Sonic 2. And he also comes back to do Sonic 3 as well in a dual role, but we'll get to that soon. But yeah, so basically the plot of this movie is, it's almost like Sonic versus Knuckles on steroids, really. Is Sonic and Tails and Knuckles are all after basically trying to find the Master Emerald, basically. If they bring in the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald in this as well, you get to learn a bit more about the Hedgehog and the Echidna Wars. You get to find out what happened to Longclaw. You know, there's a lot of things that go down in this movie. They introduce Gun properly in this movie as well, because Gun is huge in the Sonic franchise, and so it was interesting to introduce them, which then had a lot of speculation for us fans, even during the movie. If you're introducing Gun, are we going to talk about the potential for Shadow, the potential for Rouge, other Sonic characters which are linked to Gun, huge in the Sonic franchise? And yeah, it was just done really, really well. I love this movie, and to be fair, it's probably the movie that I've rewatched the most out of the trilogy, even more so than Sonic 3, but we are waiting for that to come out physically. But I do really, really like Sonic 2, and it is a fun movie, and again, did really, really well, and made a ton of money, so they like practically instantly greenlit the third movie. We had a little bit more of a wait between the first movie and between the second movie and the third movie than we did the second movie, because the second movie came out on April 1st here in the UK, April 1st, 2022, April Fool's Day. But then we had to wait until December of 2024 to get the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. But this was one that people were really looking forward to, because at the end of Sonic 2, like they did with Sonic 1, where they teased Tails and Eggman getting his more signature look, they again teased new characters for Sonic 3. The big one being that they introduced Shadow the Hedgehog, and the question on everybody's mind was, who are they going to get to play Shadow? And Shadow looked really cool. But they managed to find someone, and they chose the perfect person to play Shadow. So I'm going to waste no more time. I'm going to reveal that to you now. But first, we got to make a little bit of a pit stop, because between Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, we did get a little spin-off known as Knuckles. Hey, yeah, sorry for teasing you there, but we got to have a pit stop and briefly talk about the Knuckles TV series, which came out around April 2024, to sort of give us that little bit of a taste of something new for the Sonic franchise and within the Sonic universe between the second and third movie. And hopefully we'll get another TV series between the third and fourth movies, because there's rumours that people are talking about that people want to have a second season of Knuckles, but maybe have Shadow in it as well. So do like a Knuckles and Shadow mini-series. So that would be really cool. But yeah, in April of 2024, we did get a 6-episode series which premiered on Amazon Prime, simply titled Knuckles. And it was just a fun short little series of Knuckles trying to adapt to his new home on Earth now. Because now he's obviously part of Team Sonic, but he is struggling to find his own. He's not adjusting as well as Sonic did, and so he's trying to find where he belongs, you know, and sort of he teams up with Wade in order to, because they're both sort of a bit out of their own time, a bit of loners to a degree. So he teams up with Wade and they go on a little road trip, a little bit of a discovery journey where Wade is trying to basically win a bowling tournament. Yeah, because that's like a bit, I'd say a subplot, but it's really not. It's actually the core focus of the series. Knuckles is trying to become this true, train Wade to be this true echidna warrior through winning this bowling tournament, and at the same time Knuckles is trying to discover why Earth is so great. And it's just a fun, quirky little series. You do get cameos in episode 1 from Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, Ben Schwartz as Sonic, and Tika Sumpter as Maddie. No Tom in this series though, unfortunately. So, but it is just a fun, nice little series. Would I say it's the best thing in this Sonic universe? No, I'd probably say this is the weakest part of the universe compared to the films. But, you know, when the budget of this isn't as high as the movies, and when you've got less characters and you're turning it into episodic form, it is going to be a little bit different. There is still a fair few Sonic Easter eggs here and there, but not as heavy as there is in the movies. But yeah, it is worth a watch, and obviously you can get it physically now. I've got both the Steelbook and the regular Blu-ray edition of Knuckles, so I think it is worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of the movies anyway. Check out Knuckles, because Idris Elba does reprise his role as Knuckles, which sometimes doesn't happen when a TV show happens. Sometimes you get another actor or an actress, if it's a woman lead, you know, who will play the main role because they don't want to be part of the TV show, just the main movies. But no, Idris Elba is loving the role and so decided to come back to play him in the TV show. And I really appreciate that, and I think it is really, really good. And he's, like I said, he's doing a fantastic job. But you don't see Knuckles an awful lot, if I'm being honest, compared to what you would think in the Knuckles show. There's a couple of episodes where he's either not in it or barely in it, and it focuses predominantly on Wade. You could have almost called this series Wade, but would that have really got people interested as much? I don't know. That's kind of why you got to focus on Knuckles. You could have called it Knuckles and Wade. That might have been an interesting idea. But yeah, pit stop over. I just wanted to briefly talk about Knuckles, and just to say I do recommend checking it out. And I should have mentioned, actually, back with Sonic 2, what would I rate it out of 10? I give that one an 8 out of 10. It's a little bit better than Sonic 1, so I'd say 8 out of 10. And then the Knuckles show, for me, is a 6 out of 10. The weakest thing of the Sonic franchise so far, but still fun. I'd still say it's worth checking it out. But I've kept you in suspense long enough. Let's jump straight into my discussion on Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the current movie in the franchise. And we are finally here, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which came out in December 2024, so only about just over 2 months ago, really. So it's still quite fresh in people's minds, and I did do a review on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 if you would like to check that out, but because I'm only going to go over it briefly here. But yeah, this movie, if you want to talk about it in terms of video games, I would say Sonic the Hedgehog 3 heavily takes the plot of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and sort of like condenses it a little bit, changes up a couple of bits and pieces, but you can definitely tell that's the inspiration from it. And obviously the core focus of a new character. There's a couple of new characters introduced into this franchise. Obviously the core one being Shadow the Hedgehog, who is voiced by Keanu Reeves. Yes, John Wick himself. And I think that is fantastic and a brilliant choice. And hearing Shadow's voices in the trailer and then in the movie, I adored it. I love John Wick. So Keanu Reeves as Shadow was perfect for me. He's got that edge to him, that darkness. And I think that really, really helps. You need that with Shadow. But if you're going to introduce Shadow, you're then going to have to introduce 2 other core characters, which are huge within Sonic history, especially with Shadow. Who am I talking about? Well, you have to talk about Maria, and you have to talk about Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, who are both in this movie. Maria through flashbacks, which are brilliant. They're some of the best parts of the movie. Getting to see Shadow and Maria's relationship in this movie, from watching TV together, from running through the complex together, from stargazing together. I think it's done fantastically. I love those scenes. I would just watch a mini-series of that. Could we get a mini TV series like Knuckles, just called Shadow and Maria, and we can just see what they got up to? Because I think that would be brilliant. And then you've got Gerald Robotnik, who is actually played by Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey came back to do Sonic 3, so he's done now 2 sequels within the same franchise. But this time he did a dual role, playing normal Eggman and then Eggman's grandfather. So that was really, really cool. And in this movie, Eggman gets his iconic video game outfit, which a lot of fans loved. I adored it. I thought it was brilliant. He is proper Eggman in this movie now, but he's also a lot more insane. But yeah, and you do see the human characters in this movie as well, such as Tom does return. James Marsden comes back because he was absent in Knuckles. Again, played by James Marsden. You've also got Tika Sumpter as Maddie Wachowski again. You've also got, I forgot to mention it in Sonic 1, because she's a part of all these movies, but not so much in this. You've also got Maddie's sister, Rachel. Fantastic. A little bit of comic relief there as well. She's in Sonic 1, Sonic 2. She doesn't appear in Knuckles. But she does appear in this, but not in the way you would think she appears in this. She appears through disguise form. It's in the scene where they're in London and they're trying to infiltrate this facility in order to get a key to stop Gerald from activating the Eclipse cannon to destroy the world. They're trying to beat him to it. So they use disguises, and one of those is Maddie's sister. So that's how she comes back again. But yeah, I love this film. I will admit the pacing is very fast in this movie, because you get Sonic meeting Shadow and having his first fight with Shadow within like the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. But this movie is only 1 hour and 50 minutes, which compared to Sonic 2, which Sonic 2 was just over 2 hours, it is shorter, the runtime. I feel like you could have made it a bit longer for this, because, you know, there's a lot to talk about with Sonic Adventure 2. And introducing Shadow, he's like a fan favourite character. People love Shadow, so they want to see him for longer. Me included. But yeah, this film was just brilliant, and I think every character does a great job. Idris Elba again as Knuckles, Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, fantastic. Ben Schwartz as Sonic. I can't complain. Agent Stone again is brilliant. No Wade this time, apart from one scene. There's one scene with Wade in this movie where he's protecting the Master Emerald. He's become that warrior that we saw at the end of the Knuckles series. He's defending the Master Emerald, but Sonic just swoops in, takes it instantly. So he's used as comic relief in that one scene. But we do get to see both Super Sonic and Super Shadow. We get to see a Chow Garden, so they're introducing the Chows into the universe. Not like proper Chows. They look like those inflatable mascots you would see in like a Chuck E. Cheese or something. Something like out of Five Nights at Freddy's. But yeah, the Chow are mentioned. You know, you've got lots of mentions of like Gun, like I said, the Eclipse Cannon. You know, there's lots. Eggman destroying part of the moon. Like I said, when I say they were inspired by Sonic Adventure 2, they were inspired by Sonic Adventure 2. There's even lines from the Adventure 2 game that are put into this movie. You'll know the one if you've seen the movie and played the game, where Sonic, Tails and Knuckles are jumping out of the Gun helicopter and Sonic says the iconic line. You'll know the line. But it is brilliant. I love it. And I love this movie. Do I say I love it more than Sonic 2? I don't know. I think I'd have to watch both of them side by side. I think I'll have to have a Sonic marathon, watch all 3 movies back to back, and then make that decision. But I will say, Sonic 3, I did vote it as my second favourite film of 2024. I will say I'd give it maybe an 8 or a 9. It was very solid. I just think maybe the pacing was a little bit off. But like every Sonic movie, they tease new Sonic characters, and the 2 new Sonic characters that were teased at the end in one of the post-credit scenes for this movie was Metal Sonic and Amy Rose, and oh my goodness, they both look amazing. In particular, Metal Sonic. He looks gorgeous. He looks literally like you've taken him straight from the game, plopped him in the movie. He looks flawless, and I cannot wait to see him. But I'm interested to see what the 4th movie is going to look like and what games they're going to take inspiration from. Are they going to go back and use Sonic CD as an inspiration? Are they going to go forward a little bit and use Sonic Heroes? Or are they going to combine the 2? I don't know. I feel like they might combine the 2. But yeah, so Sonic 3 was brilliant. But yeah, that is just my overall thought on Sonic 3. And that's just a quick little discussion of the Sonic franchise in general. And I'd say if I was to give the series an overall score, I'd probably give the overall Sonic franchise maybe an 8 out of 10 overall, because it is fairly solid. And if you're a Sonic fan like me, you're going to love it. And even if you're not a Sonic fan, you know, these are fun movies, and I think you will enjoy them. But I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up and comment down below and subscribe if you are new, because I appreciate all the support that everyone has been giving me lately since I've started my YouTube channel. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. But this is the Nerdy Grail signing out. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.